What's going on, guys? Today I'm just going to do a kind of a shorter video than the usual ones I've done in length, and I'm just going to talk about what I think circumstances are, and kind of how I think that plays into the game of reality that we live in. And there's so many different things online with what people say and kind of like how to navigate them or whatever. Um, and I don't necessarily know if it's like, like what some people say with like the universe testing you, or it's like a test or whatever. And I know they say like, oh, it's only a test if you say it's a test or whatever, right? But I do think there is a reason that there are things that challenge your beliefs almost like, not like immediately, but they do come and they do test you at some point when it comes to, kind of like what you say you are. So there is something to it. I just don't know exactly like to what capacity that is, or to what like variance and like, reasoning behind it. Because ultimately it seems kind of random, but almost at times too, like it almost seems like destined in a way. So I'm just going to give my thoughts on what I think circumstances are, and yeah, we'll go from there. So the big thing with manifesting, right, especially like the whole I am thing, is that let's say that you're broken, you say I am rich, right, and you're been working on that, and your mind frame and your inner state, and you get the whole shebang, right? Okay, like my internal world is the only thing that matters. That's it, right? Whatever I say I am within, I am now, right? Okay, we get that. And then maybe something comes along where you get like all these like bills or just like bad occurrences or like negative circumstances that kind of directly challenge your claim that you just made or have been working on, right? So like, what is that? So kind of tying it back to the video that I did about how we're all solo leveling, I kind of look at circumstances now as like, it's almost like you're playing like you're portraying like a anime protagonist, and it's like the villain is like trying to like immediately just like fuck with you, like, oh yeah, you're rich, all right, like some like like Madara type shit, or like Muzan coming to like just absolutely just like throw you off your track, right? So when it comes to like dealing with circumstances, I feel like in a way it kind of makes it more fun, because you're like, all right, like bring it on, right? Like do your worst. But in a real sense, right? Like what even are those? Like why do they come about? And again, like it's part of me is like, okay, it's only a challenge if you say it's a challenge, right? Fair enough, right? That is true, right? But it's still like, regardless, it still is a direct challenge to your I am state, regardless of how you feel about it, right? Even if you think, okay, no matter what, it works out perfectly, everything works out perfectly all the time, at the end of the day, it still is a challenge to go through, regardless of how you kind of play it in your mind, right? So in a way, I do think it is some form of like direct challenge, either from yourself or something outside. I don't know what it is, right? But it definitely is some form of challenge against, like, oh, you say you're rich, all right, let's see if you're rich, right? Like kind of thing. And I think that's part of like the whole like like transurfing reality thing, right? Where you're perusing your way through different realities, right? And the way to get there is just by having that absolute knowing within, that's I am this person now, right? And then you have things that will come and like challenge it, and if like you don't let it bother you, right, it's like if you give into it with emotion and just like immediately like go negative, right, well then clearly you're not that person you say you are. So why would that come about for you, like physically? It just doesn't make any sense. So that's kind of what I think circumstances are, in a way. It's just like kind of like almost like checkpoints, just to see like, okay, like let's just make sure that he's serious about it. Let's make sure that he actually wants to do it. But instead of like a pop-up window, like saying like, oh, confirm you want to change this or confirm you want to do this, right? It's just like different events in your life that do it instead, right? And in a way, it kind of does make it seem more like like the things that you actually like say I am and you stick to, even in the face of adversity, it almost seems more real, and like warranted than just saying it and then selecting yes and that's it. This way, it's like, okay, like there's conviction behind it, because truly, like if you say like I am rich and this a bill comes and you get upset over it, right? Like, well, clearly you're not that person you say you are. Like if that's the thing that's gonna throw you off, right? Or a bill comes and like, oh damn, I have to pay this bill all of a sudden. Well, then you're not really that person you say you are, ultimately. So again, I just think circumstances are just something to kind of like almost like be like a checkpoint, like in a video game, to say, oh, okay, let's just double check to make sure, right? And it's like the more things that you stay true to, like your I am state, right, which is all that matters, right, is who you say you are. And the more you're able to do that, then the easier it is to like move into that state of like, you know, who you're claiming to be, because it's ultimately only when you stay true to who you are that things actually happen, and with conviction, not just saying the words, which for a lot of people I feel like you do. You know, I know for myself I definitely did at some point, where it's like you're kind of just speaking words and like hoping rather than knowing. And I might do a video on that at some point, right? Because I feel like for a lot of people they do that, right? They hope instead of know. And kind of like I showed in an earlier video, right? Like there is a difference, and there's a big difference. And we do a lot of knowing in our day-to-day life, right? Like we know we're going to take our next breath, right? Like we don't question if we're going to, we just automatically do it. So, but back to circumstances, right? So again, like I think they're just almost like checkpoints, just to check, right? Okay, let's just double check to see if he is that person, right? And then if you get through it without freaking out and like letting it like cast you into despair like repeatedly, then I think that's like when you actually like physically get what you know you want out of life, right? But it's only when you do that, because I'd really feel like if you just like give in into despair, then like you're not gonna move anywhere. Like you're basically just like walking back and forth like repeatedly. So again, right, don't let circumstances really bother you. Like they're nothing to be afraid of. I feel like they're just like, in a way, like you're self testing yourself, just to confirm that you know you are this person that you claim to be. Because it's like, all right, it's a pretty big jump, right, in who you are, right? It's probably best to like just confirm it, right? It's probably best just to double check rather than just like doing it automatically. Because like imagine if like things happened automatically like we want it to be, right? Imagine like the chaos in the world of like instantly just creating things like on a whim. Like it sounds great, but in reality that would be terrible, because like just imagine you have like one like straggling like negative thought, and then that thing immediately comes about, like immediately, right? Like that would suck. So I think this is for our own benefit this way too. So it's like before you can like, you know, transsurf into your desired, you know, reality, because ultimately I feel like that's what we're doing. We don't create anything, we're just simply choosing the reality that we want to be in. And the circumstances are just a way of like almost like confirming, right, that we do want to jump, right, or we do want to choose a different one. And in a way, right, if that is the case, right, the next logical like kind of leap would be to assume that they're actually like, when circumstances come, it's good, because like that means things are progressing, right? Because it's like, you know, things will it's like imagine you know, like you go to do something in a video game, the pop-up window never comes, so you never get to like choose what to do, right? It's kind of like the same thing, right? So in a way, circumstances can be looked at as good, because now you're like, okay, I know things are progressing, like I just need to make sure my mental stability is under control, right? And that's something that everyone needs to work on, because I know, you know, circumstances are all different for everyone else, right? And we're all at different levels. But ultimately, a circumstance is still a circumstance, no matter what. And if you really are concrete in your knowing of who you are, then you're not going to let some, no matter what, right? No matter what, affect who you are, because you have conviction in what you say, right? And I know it's easier said than done, trust me, I know. But I really feel like, in a way, like these things are good for us because, like, at least like you're progressing. Like, okay, here come the circumstances that will test me, right? All right, do your worst, right? Do your worst. I'll show you who I am, right? I'll prove to you who I am, right? And it's like you almost get like angry with it, like not like aggressive, like angry, but like almost like yeah, like do your worst, right? Like you're not gonna throw me off, right? And you almost get angry with it in a way, and kind of like snap back at like these circumstances, which in reality it's like you're snapping back at like a fucking pop-up window, but I feel like at least anger, you bring more conviction behind it, right? Because like like how they say like emotion behind what you do, like feeling is the secret, right? Like I don't necessarily think that means like, oh, you need to be feeling fucking like exuberant or like joyous about like like I am rich, wow, how does it feel to be rich, right? Because truly, right, like if you were just rich, you would just feel normal, right? So the feeling of knowing is just like kind of calmness under pressure, right? It's kind of just like pretty like uniform, or like you just like not really like reacting, right? Like imagine like a rich person got like a bill for $1,000, like they probably wouldn't bat an eye because they buy stuff constantly that are like at least $1,000. So in a nutshell, right, circumstances don't need to be looked at negatively. In reality, they probably aren't even bad. They're probably just like your pop-up window asking if you want to confirm it, yes or no. But instead of a pop-up window, we just have more of like a physical reality barrier that's testing us, and then it's not super strong. We just don't give into it, then it kind of goes away or fixes itself. So yep. So just wanted to pop on here and kind of talk about that a little bit. I'm still kind of getting my groove for how I want to record videos, and how I want to go about doing it, because ultimately I'm just doing this just to give me an outlet, just to kind of like talk and rant, because I know my girlfriend probably, she's pretty much the only one I rant to, or my cats. So maybe now I can find some like-minded people, and maybe even help some people who are maybe where I was at some point in any area, right? Whether it's like seduction or manifestation, right? Like I'm not gonna claim here and say I'm like a fucking like prodigy at either one of them, but I would say I am pretty good at it, more so than most people. And if I have the ability to help anyone, and maybe maybe someone needs to hear how I speak in order to understand it better. And if that's the case, then awesome. And that's kind of what this whole thing is for. So if things look kind of weird at first, like I said, I'm just trying to kind of figure out my groove when it comes to recording stuff, like and like where I want to do it. But honestly, I'm just gonna do it wherever I want to do it, because I'm just doing it when I'm kind of bored and just want to like rant. So anyways, take care, guys.